Greetings traders, this is Coach Robert, and this video is going to be an extended tutorial on the new Auto OCO bracket orders in Topstep X. We'll compare the difference between the basic position bracket orders and show you some tips in how you can use the Auto OCO bracket orders. This video is recorded on September 24th, 2025. So all of the features here are as of this date. So let's get started. First, we can see under the settings, we have position profit brackets, and we have the ability to switch to Auto OCO brackets. Note that your account must be fully flattened in all positions before you are able to switch back and forth. These are the traditional position brackets, meaning we can identify our risk in dollars and our profit in dollars, and we can have them apply automatically. So back on the chart, we can also access the settings by clicking on the gear in the order panel or on the gear on the top of the chart. Now, this is important because even though we have the gear on both and it shows the same regardless of which one we choose, when we turn on the Auto OCO brackets a little later in this video, it will be important to remember that they operate differently. So you can have one set of brackets enabled on the order panel and a different set enabled on the chart trading option. We'll get to that in just a moment. As it stands right now, I'm just going to enter a buy position. Now we have no target or stop because we did not have them turned on automatically. However, if I click and drag to a profit area, because I am one position long, and I can click and drag to a stop loss. Now these are locked together. We can see the colors nicely match here. So if we want to close our position, we're able to simply close, close, or click flatten all, which is the best option. Now let's choose the option to apply them automatically. I have it set at $100 profit and $100 risk in this scenario. We can see it's telling us that the positions have applied successfully. And now if I choose buy, we can see that it automatically places a target and a stop, which can be adjusted as needed. Now with position brackets, if I go to add another position, so I'm one long, if I add, it's simply going to put me in two long and then change the quantity of my target and stop automatically as well, but it's not going to adjust the location of them or move them to a new location, and that will be a feature of the Auto OCO. If I want to get out of a position, I can simply sell, and we can see we're now down to one. We're down to one. If I sell again, it will close that position. So those are the basic position bracket orders, and I highly encourage you to have this positions component up on your screen. You can add this by just choosing any of the plus signs and then taking the positions component and dragging it to the area that you would like. So moving on, let's change over to the Auto OCO. Now I do have some set up already, so we'll just make this easy and choose the brackets here and switch to OCO brackets. Now I'm going to go into the edit feature. You can add a bracket here. This is what it looks like when you're going to add it. We can give it a name. You can choose your stop loss in ticks or in dollars. And then you can choose your profit in ticks or in dollars. Currently, the available option for stop loss is just a stop order. It is not trailing at the time of this video. The take profit obviously will be a limit order to get out of your open position. So let's just take a look at one that is already built. So here I labeled it $50 take profit and $50 stop loss. I can edit. There's the name, and notice that it is in dollars. This one here, I chose to use ticks, and it will tell me that it's in ticks, and I didn't put the dollar sign in front. You can label these any way you would like. So if we look, I have it labeled as 40 stop loss, 80 take profit, and I have them listed in ticks. And then I added this one, which we will go through also, and it's a stop loss only. So I did not enter any profit, and it's only a stop loss. So I can add that to my chart. When I enter a position, it will only add a $100 stop loss or $100 away. Depending on the instrument, it's still going to be $100. And obviously, if you're using the tick version, your price will be different. So you need to know your instruments. But this will only give me a stop loss, and I can just drag that up automatically. Another thing we will go over in a short time is how to use the trailing stop feature as well. I want to really cover a lot of these different types of order options. Now that I have selected to use the Auto OCO brackets, we can see we have them here as an option. So as an example, let's just choose $100 take profit and $100 stop loss. And notice that it did not change on the chart. Therefore, if I chose to buy, join bid, ask, or sell, it will automatically place the orders for me, and I can flatten my position. When I'm in the order, I can also adjust my profit and loss very easily just by dragging them. If I do this again, notice I'm in two positions, and it added a profit, an additional profit, and an additional stop loss based on $100 on my entry. This is something the position brackets did not do. And here is one thing we need to be very careful of. While I still have the OCO bracket on, if I choose to get out of a position by clicking sell, what that will do is close one position, but it's also going to add an additional bracket associated with that sell order because these are all done individually, and I'll demonstrate that. Move these out of the way. Now, if I choose sell, notice that I got out of one position because I was long, but then it added a profit target, which would be below due to the sell, and a stop loss above because I'm short. I don't want those on the chart. And notice that it also did not remove the previous OCO brackets. This is because they're operating independently of each other. If I add one more, notice I'm in profit. It will add an additional target and stop along with that order. Now, the best way to remove one of these, if you want to close, is simply drag your profit into profit. I'm going to drag it down, and there it is. I had to move it right below the order, so once the market price became above my limit sell, you can do the same for a stop loss, but I would think you would want to take the profit out. But let's demonstrate. If I have a stop loss and it gets hit, I need to move it up, and let it get hit. A little further, there it is. And notice this limit sell was because the previous order was not associated. And we can do that again. Buy market, limit sell, done. The best way is to make sure just hit flatten if you're out of positions, all positions. You can close the order here. And in the positions panel, if I happen to be on a different instrument, for example, let's choose MES, and let's say I am a long MES, the same brackets, we can see both positions here. We can either choose to close them individually, or if I choose flatten all, it will close all positions and pending orders under the account that I'm on. If you are copy trading, it will remove the ones under the leader account. So let's go back to MNQ, continue the demonstration. If I right click on the chart and I choose to market by, it is only going to have the original brackets, not the OCO, because I did not choose them from the chart trading. And this may seem like it is a mistake or a not favorable feature, but I believe it is because when you're trading on the chart, you may be trading differently than through the order panel or through the DOM. Now notice that I'm in this bracket area. If I click and I drag to set my limit order, we will get an error because the dragging of the position brackets is only available when we are using the position brackets. So we'll flatten. Let us change to 50, take profit and stop loss. And now when I buy, it will place them at $50 away. And I can choose the ticks as well if we wish to do that. So let's do a 40 tick stop loss and a 100 tick take profit. Market buy. And there it is. I am now in two. It has my stop and it has my target. So let's go to $100. If I want to put a buy stop or even a sell limit above the market, let's say buy stop for one contract, it will attach and it will wait. Now, if I want to move this closer to my entry point, if I drag, you will see that the target and the stop will maintain their $100 distance, just like this, which I believe is very beneficial. Now, I can change the order panel to do something different, $200, and I want to get in right away. So there's a market, and these are associated with this bracket order. If I want to flatten and remove, close them all. That is the best way to get out of your positions or dragging your limit down to where you're position last price is. Let me choose a trailing stop. And just for making it easy, let's do a $100 take profit and stop loss. Now, here's something that's interesting. Say I want to keep my trailing distance 80 ticks away. For example, if I want to get a best price to go long, I would actually buy a trailing stop, and I actually don't need an order open because in this case, it will not be a trailing stop loss due to the fact that there are no positions open. It is simply going to place a stop order on the chart the same way as if I just chose a buy stop like this. It would simply be sitting there. However, if it is a trailing and it's a buy trailing, that means as the market drops and falls, the trail will follow it down. And because I want to be long, it will enter at a decent price rather than just using a market order to get in. Now let's demonstrate that. Buy my trailing stop, and here it is. And we can actually see it's 60.50 right now, 60.5. And as the market moves against us, the other direction, it was moving along with it. And if we get to see it move down a little further, we'll actually see this trailing along with it because it keeps it 80 ticks away from the time of where the price was when the order was entered, the position was entered. I can also manually move it. So if I'm moving it and I move it again, the brackets will stay. As the market falls, since I'm waiting on a buy, which would be a long position, we can see it's getting me in at a better price. So let's bring this a little closer so we actually do get a fill. It's moving down. If the market comes up and enters me in a long position, the brackets will apply. Now, these are not active at this point in time, meaning if I move this way up above, it's not going to enter a sell or limit if I was below because they're not active until my position is entered. So let's move this down a little further. Once we get into a position, we will see that the brackets will now be active. And this can be beneficial if you choose a tighter distance. So if the market is falling quickly, for example, it will trail it down quickly. Like for example, if we had a buy stop trailing, a trailing stop here, and the market dropped quickly, your entry for long would continue to give you a better position. And again, now that we are here, the limit sell can be adjusted, the stop loss can be adjusted. If we want to get out of the position, we can choose to flatten all, or we can simply close the position, or we can drag down our limit. Once it gets close into profit, there we have it, and it gets closed. So I think these are actually pretty good options that are currently available. Let me reiterate one more time that if you are in a position, I am now long 1. Let me go long 2. Now we can see I have independent orders. I really don't want to sell to get out of this position with the brackets on because it's going to close and it will actually add another bracket. Also, if I turn them off and I sell, it will still close one position, but it's not going to remove the limit sell or stop market sell. For example, I close one position, and at this point in time, as of September 24th, 2025, these are not being removed. We need to keep an eye on them and have them removed manually. So be sure you choose to flatten all. You can actually see your positions here, and that will get you out of every position under the account on every instrument, and it will also close any pending orders. And the final one I will demonstrate is when I choose my stop loss only. So I'm going to choose $100 stop loss as I had set up previously, and I choose a buy. Now here's my stop at the bottom, but notice I have no target. If I choose to place a target, so this would be a limit sell, it is not selected and associated with this OCO order because the OCO stop is attached to the position that was entered through the order panel, not through the chart entry. So in this case, we would definitely want to be sure we flatten all so it removes every position. And I also set up multiple brackets, which give me the same stop loss, but different profit targets. Now, these will be individual orders at this point in time, but they can easily be entered. You can enter them via a stop or limit order. So let me show and demonstrate. I have a let's use the lowest one first, 40 tick stop and 80 tick profit. And I can enter them as a market order, but the market is moving, so I will actually get different entry points. However, if I choose the chart entries, I can actually choose the price more easily. I'm at 24760. I can change to now a new one and enter at the same price level, or I can enter it as a stop market order here and manually enter my stop price in as the same thing. So for example, I was on 40.80. This is 40 as stop loss in 100. And I want the price to be 24760.25 quarter. Now, if I choose my buy, it will place a new position. Also an individual, it's not going to be attached to this, it will just be its own. But the stop loss being the same, however, the target will be further away. Let's do that one more time with the 150 take profit. And these are ticks. So it's a stop market, same price level, buy. So what we have here is we are entering 3 positions long. We have an exact stop at 40 ticks away for all 3 brackets. So we basically will be stopped out all of them if the 750.25 is hit. However, we do have 3 different profit targets. And this is a common question about how to enter multiple profits. At this point in time, we only have the ability to enter one at a time like this. So perhaps in the future, we'll be able to specify, I want 3, and I want to take 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here for profits, and have my stop the same. And perhaps it can be entered all at the same time. But how it operates now, we can see it is actually not very difficult to apply these. And then, of course, we can adjust our entries, and we can see that they all move down because the 3 at the same price are locked, 3 at the same price for stop are locked, and my targets are at different prices, but they're also locked according to the entry. And we'll actually move this down. So let's see if we can get an entry. I know the stop is very tight. Let's move this a little closer. There we have it. So there are 3. Now let me move a limit sell and get out of one position. There we have it. Notice we are now in 2. It removed one of the brackets, so we are now 2 stop loss, and it kept the other 2 associated profit targets. So this can be very beneficial as well. And again, you can also move these out of the way. You can close it automatically or just continue to scale out your position manually, or you let the market do its job and the OCOs do their job of scaling you in and out and removing the orders. So I think that will conclude this extended tutorial for the bracket orders. Remember that you need to be flattened before you can go and switch between the position brackets or the Auto OCO bracket options.